Thank you, Peter. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone in this room, but also anyone who is watching live stream on BGC TV. And before I begin, I'd just also very much like to thank the individuals who made today's symposium possible, particularly Mark LeBlanc, Dean Elena Simon, and the BGC students who really make things run smoothly. Thank you also to Susan Weber, the director of the Bard Graduate Centre, without whose support none of the numerous, and they are numerous, interesting and stimulating symposia, exhibitions and publications that come out of this institution would happen. And of course, I extend particular thanks to this afternoon's speakers, Amy Oakland, Elena Phipps, and Gary Urton, who have travelled in some cases quite considerable distances, Amy, to share their insights on the social lives of Andean textiles, and whose papers I'm all very much looking forward to. So as Dean Miller mentioned, this afternoon's symposium is hosted alongside the opening last week of two exhibitions in the Bard Graduate Centre Gallery, just up the street at 18 West 86th Street. And these two exhibitions, Water Weavers and Carrying Coca, cover a region in Latin America, as well as topics that thus far have been fairly little represented at BGC. And so I very much hope that if you haven't seen those exhibitions yet, that you'll have the opportunity to do so in the coming months. And specifically, my aims for this afternoon developed as and this is very much a collective project, myself, faculty here, students who are very much involved, and gallery staff crafted Carrying Coca, the Focus Gallery exhibition, which we crafted over the last 18 months roughly. And this exhibition introduces the visitor to approximately 1,500 years of textile arts in Andean South America, highlighting variations in decorative repertoires across space and time, as well as alterations in the materials and technologies used to produce textiles. But in focusing on one particular kind of textile, small woven bags used for holding coca leaves, we also try to present coca bags, these textiles, called chuspes, as much more than aesthetically pleasing and technically sophisticated pieces of art, but as objects that are used, that are interacted with, and that are central to cultural practice. And in so doing, at the core of this exhibition is the idea that I hope we can examine in more depth this afternoon, and that is the social significance of cloth in the Andean past and present. Woven objects from Andean South America are acclaimed by scholars and the public alike for their aesthetic qualities, the intricacies of their design, and the high level of skill that goes into their making. And textiles, of course, play very important adaptive roles in a region that is noted for its climatic extremes, acting as essential barriers against the cold and the wind in high altitude regions and the high intensity sun that is present across much of this area. But beyond their functional and their aesthetic value, textiles have for millennia played important economic, ritual and social roles in Andean communities. And there are many examples of this, so just to name a few, these examples of the social significance of cloth include the importance of textile production and consumption in the Inca economy, in which cloth was demanded as tribute by the state, offered as valuable gifts to reward service and to cement political relationships. Or following the Spanish conquest of the Andes in 1533, when dress was both reflective and constitutive of the process of cultural interchange that occurred during the colonial period, when the Spanish co-opted systems of Andean textile-based taxation, and European dress and design was adapted by indigenous men and women and vice versa. And further, as in pre-Hispanic times, the way in which textiles today play a fundamental role in communicating various kinds of social identities, with dress demarcating gender, age, ethnic identity, village membership. So in this afternoon's symposium, then, what we seek to do is to move beyond a focus on Andean textiles as visually impressive pieces of art to examine their social lives. And the title of this symposium, of course, references Appadurai's influential edited volume. But while the commodification of textiles is certainly part of the story of Andean cloth, I'd like us to take Appadurai's broader concern with how meaning is attributed to things through the ways in which they are used and circulated, and to consider textiles as objects that interject in human experience in Andean South America, that contribute to the ways in which people interact with their world around them, and that mediate relationships between communities and individuals. So our speakers this afternoon are absolutely leading researchers in contemporary scholarship on Andean textiles. I really don't think we could have had a better representation of the variety of Andean textile scholarship. And in true BGC commitment to post, to inter, to cross-disciplinary conversation, they represent a range of disciplinary and institutional backgrounds and training, from ethnohistory, archaeology, art history, museum practice, and so forth. So just as I finish then, I just wanted to briefly mention the organisation of this afternoon. We're going to invite each of the three speakers to come up to give their papers, which are roughly 40-45 minutes in length. And then at the end of the three papers, we're then going to invite all of our speakers to the front table here, at which point we will open the floor to questions. And for those of you not here who would like to also participate in that conversation, I invite you to tweet your questions to hashtag Bard Graduate Centre TV, and we will pass those on to our speakers here. And so hopefully we can finish the day with some vibrant discussion and conversation on the social lives of Andean textiles. So it's my very great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Amy Oakland. And Amy Oakland is professor in the Department of Art at California State University, East Bay. And Dr. Oakland's research on South Central Andean assemblages is really exemplary of scholarly approaches that treat archaeological cloth as exactly what I was speaking about, as more than aesthetically pleasing, technically sophisticated objects, but as material that reflects and constitutes social experience in the Andes. She's worked extensively on collections, especially from northern Chile, and her published work includes the very influential article that I have read more times than I know how to count, Amy, called Textiles and Ethnicity, Tiwanaku in San Pedro de Atacama, North Chile, which was published in Latin American Antiquity. And in this article, she brought very much an anthropological perspective to pre-Hispanic textiles, examining the ways in which variations in textiles recovered from tombs dating to between AD 700 and 1000 are indicative of ethnic differences. Other publications include the Art Journal article, Andean Tapestry, Structure and Forms of Surface, as well as contributions to significant edited volumes, among them a chapter in the 2000 volume Beyond Cloth and Cordage, and in the volume Traditional Textiles of the Andes, which was published through a company exhibit on 18th, 19th, and 20th century textiles at the De Young Museum. So I welcome Amy Oakland. Her paper today is entitled Es Costumbre No Más, Style and Meaning in Archaeological Textiles.